Hey everyone, exciting new segment we're going to try. Obviously, I've been doing this for many years now. We've got hundreds, if not thousands of videos out there. Some of them are great and I'm pretty proud of them. Some of them not so much. So we're going to go back and we're actually going to go over and do some reaction videos. So I'm going to watch some of my old videos, some of my recent videos, do a few comparisons, do a bit of critiquing of myself, have a laugh, and should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how we go. Here we go. One of the most epic jobs I've ever done in my life, without a doubt. As you can see, I've got myself up on top of the pool. I probably should give you a little bit of context. Basically, this is the third visit to this place. Once it gets to 3 visits, as a snake catcher, we're starting to get a little bit frustrated that we can't catch a snake. I've tried sneaking up on it. This snake's basically right at the base of the slab on the ground there, sits right against the base, and then as soon as it sees anybody or any movement, just ducks underneath the swimming pool slab and disappears forever. We tried flushing it for a couple of hours on the first day, and then we tried digging it. That's why the shovel's there. It's not there for anything else. The shovel's there because we were digging the day before this and still couldn't find him. So I thought, well, last option is to Mission Impossible jump down on the snake and see if we can catch him, but let's have a look how it went. I'm not sure if you can see, but he is slowly moving along the edge. And I basically jump right next to him, pick him up, and he decides to just go off, which is expected. If someone jumped down on you and
grabbed you by the tail or the leg, you'd go off.
You can see I nearly fell in the garden, which wasn't great. There's also quite a steep slope going down behind me, and I had to be wary of that. When you grab a 6-foot brown snake, the last thing you want to do is fall on your back and have the brown snake land on your face. But as you can see, the snake's a little bit wriggly. He's obviously not too keen on getting picked up. Now, probably should have had the snake's head on the ground. This was obviously 5-6 years ago when I first started. It would have maybe calmed the snake down. Well, it definitely would have calmed the snake down, but I think my adrenaline was just pumping. I was just like, I've got a bloody brown snake in my hand. I need to get him into a bag. Now, I didn't bring the bag with me because I needed both my hands and I wanted to bring the hook as well. So the idea is now that if I did get the snake, the family who own the place were going to pass me down the bag. So I'm basically just going to try and line myself up now and see how we go.
Wait, Terry.
You just throw it.
So not sure why I said to throw it, because that would have been probably a bad idea. But I think the way it ended up happening was quite good in the fact that they ended up just passing it down to me. You can see that I should have had the snake's head on the ground. It would have stopped him from coming up on himself, but it is quite a slope. So for me to get his head on the ground there, I would have had to put him down quite a fair way. But either way, got him in the bag. A fantastic result. As you can see, I was pretty stoked. That's genuine, that's genuine emotion from me because, it did take 3 days to finally catch this snake. It was well worth it in the end, and certainly one of the most dangerous jobs I've ever done in my career, still to this day. All right, dear oh dear, I thought this one was going to pop up. This is, without a doubt, one of those life-changing and career-changing moments where from this day moving forward, sorry I've got all serious on everybody here, but what happens and what's coming up shook me. It did. It shook me. I made a handful of mistakes on this particular day, and I'll go through those. This was, this is probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's actually Movember at the time as well. You can see my dirty moustache now. All for good cause though, obviously. But so the snake went to take off, and as you can see, I've kept the head off the ground. Come on, Stuart. And I've left my bag behind. So a couple of mistakes there, and now what I've got to do, I obviously don't want the client to come back towards me. I'll get too close when I've got a big brown snake in my hands, so I'm bringing it back. Now I've got to bring it back past the couch. I've got to my bag, and then the snake gets pretty surprised there, and you can see how just missed my fingers. And I kid you not, I'm going to put up a screenshot now to show you exactly how close. Look at that. It's up past my wrist, like within inches of my fingers, and you can see there trying to play it cool, but I'm pretty shaken up, and I end up having to come back the next day, and you can imagine how I was feeling. Had to come back the next day, and there was actually the second brown snake in their pool area as well. So they had two underneath the back deck that was actually right on the back of the house. And the one that nearly got me, that was the first one. And then the other one basically exposed itself and came out the next day, and it was even bigger. So you can imagine the adrenaline was pumping. I'd only been doing snake catching for maybe 1 or 2 years. So I was still trying to gain experience in the industry. And yeah, it was definitely one of the more heart-pumping calls that I've had to come back to, that's for sure. But as you're about to see, I handle it way better than I did the first one. And the snake actually pops out through the skimmer box. The bag's all wet there. Probably should have thought about that. But he's actually trying to get his head around the pole. So snakes will often do this when they try and get away from a potential predator and something grabs them like us by the tail. They'll actually sort of hook their head around the end of something, whether it's a pole or a post, a bit of timber, a tree branch. It's always quite hard getting pythons out of trees. But I give him a little bit of a poke here, I think from memory, with the bag to get him to just sort of come backwards. I don't want to pull him too hard because I can actually injure him. And we're not there to injure the snake, we're there to catch it and safely relocate it. Good view too, just quietly behind me. But there you go, a little bit of a touch of the bag. Big snake, I put his head down on the ground. You can see the difference, calms down, and in the bag he goes. But yeah, I'll certainly never ever forget those two particular call outs, especially the first one. I changed the way I did things after that moment. You know, obviously throughout a career you're going to make mistakes, and I'll continue to make mistakes in the future, but that was one of the biggest mistakes I'd made, and I nearly cost with, you know, a bite and a trip to hospital. So I'm glad I didn't, and we moved forward from that, and hopefully have definitely become a better snake catcher from that moment. Thanks for joining us for another snake reaction video to one of our old videos. This is bloody cool. A lot of people thought this was fake. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it is that amazing and that, I guess, shocking. But basically, we were called by an elderly couple at a retirement village, and they said that they had a snake under their bin. And when we rocked up, they put their hands out. Here we go.
Oh, holy! Look at the size of it. That is double the size of what I was thinking.
Apologies for the bit of swearing there, but what I was going to say is they put their hands out when we arrived, and they said it's from here to here, and we're like, what? Fitting under that bin? You've got to be joking. So we kind of didn't believe them, because usually when people call us and say the snake's 3 meters long, realistically it's probably 1.5 meters. But in this case, the elderly couple were bang on, I tell you. It was nearly 3 meters long and one of the thickest pythons we've ever seen. So healthy, big buff head, and as you can see under the bin, there probably would have been about a 6-inch gap. It was quite a strange wheelie bin to have that big a gap, but he'd gone in under there to find a bit of shelter, and yeah, he was actually a gentle giant too, so you'll see me pick him up here. But that was probably, I reckon, one of the biggest snakes I've caught that season. You can see I've just realised that I've brought over a tiny pillowcase to try and put that huge snake in, so I had to go back to the car, or I think Westy went back to the car to grab the snake bag. But that's why you should always bring a snake bag. But yeah, just when I hold him up here, obviously the angle that we get this shot in probably makes him look a little bit bigger, but trust me, that snake was ginormous. It was heavy. Actually, no, we didn't go get the snake bag. That's right. Westy basically stayed and filmed, and I had to carry him to the car. But what a whopper of a carpet python. It's pretty rare that we actually come across pythons this big these days, because usually, you know, to try and survive for that long, you know, you're probably going to cross a road 10, 20, 30 times a year, the snakes will, and to try and not get run over, and obviously go in a backyard with big dogs or shovel wielding bandits, you know, it's pretty rare that we do get snakes this big. But you can just see how big this snake is. Gentle giant, happy to go in the bag. I was pretty happy to get him in the bag because he was bloody heavy. But yeah, couldn't help myself, quickly get him out, get him ready to go back in the bush. And we don't like to hold on to them for too long. Often in these times where we're holding them like this, we're checking them over, seeing if they've got any ticks, see if they've got any old scars, any injuries. You'd be surprised. He was looking at the old tackle box then. Oh dear. But yeah, so we often look over them just to check for injuries and that sort of thing, just to make sure they're all good to go. And you'd be surprised. There's been a few times when we're actually relocating a snake that when we go to release them, we find an injury or tick or something that needs attention, and we get them straight to the wildlife hospital. But this big fella was good to go, and he was quite happy to get back in the bush. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave some feedback in the comments. We always love to hear from our followers. Also, make sure you subscribe, hit that button. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, we'll chuck our email address in the description of the video. Thanks guys.